very good. I'm very good. Very excited for this call.
As am I. This felt like almost going to church for some reason. It was
Religious experience. Actually,
how's your day going?
it's going well. I had like a busy day. Had a busy few days. We're working hard with the documentary right now, trying to find, both private investors and distributors. So it's been a hustle in, like all these meetings, all like trying to find contacts and talking to, basically scavenging the network for anyone interested. But yeah, it's been a good few days. So we had some small successes, which is good. Oh
Someone
yeah,
that would want to be a part of the group or want to help along with your group as well, because like you said, I read as well, you guys are going to be launching this for the film festivals.
mm, yeah, for sure. I mean, I can give you like a complete rundown of what we're doing. But we had some major interests. Our first private investor come in this week, or the end of last week, actually.
Mhm.
So also we have a very right now we have a very beneficial like equity offer to anyone who wants to privately invest in the documentary right now for, so you can own like a net worth, or you have like equity in the documentary for when it's sold for distribution.
That's incredible to know as well. How did you just watch the fights online? How did you get into this?
No, I didn't know it was a thing when I got involved. I got involved in 2020. I was doing a commercial shoot for a completely different thing. It was more like a sports brand thing. I had this idea of like how cool it would be to have an actual bare knuckle fighter in this commercial, or like, because that's like the real deal. The campaign was called the Itch, so it's sort of like the itch of, when you get the itch, you need to do something like unrational,
Mhm.
and it built upon that, and that's how I sort of got involved with Simon the Savage. I was gonna film him, and I got invited to an event to like film that event and use the material for the commercial. But at that time, I didn't really know what King of the Streets was. Like I just, I had like I have like a very strong moral compass. So at the time, I just thought, like maybe this is too crazy for me. Maybe, this is just like hooligans. I had no interest in that kind of life. But then as I entered into the first event, and after that event, I just realized that, it's very extreme, of course, and it looked like nothing I've ever seen before. But it was also like something had some depth to it that I didn't really understand up until later on.
January 5th, 2020, eh?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah. Shit.
I zoomed in. I zoomed in because you had a handwritten note. I zoomed in on the project.
Oh
You read
yeah, that's so
that.
cool. Yeah, you read those notes. That's
Yes,
cool.
sir.
Yeah, that's actually like that's my real journal from that time.
My heart was beating when I was reading that, man, because I could just imagine how you're feeling entering that world, especially with, that thoughts as well. My dad is a minister. I was raised in church, and
Oh wow.
even anything, regarding combat sports is kind of looked at, besides WWE and boxing, was kind of looked at
Mm.
as sheer brutality. And I also felt exactly the same way, and this is what drew me to that as well. Um, not just the fighting itself, but the moral outlook on this as well. Because, like I mentioned in the message, it's almost a disrespect to the human, to the person itself that's in there, putting their life on the line. No one's asking them to do that. I understand that, but we should be
Mm.
able to at least watch it and try and unravel and understand. And I think what you're doing, I know that what you're
Mm.
doing is exactly that, and bringing this to the global scale too. So it's incredibly exciting as well as very heavy because, like I said, I found myself doodling for half an hour before I really wanted to
Mm.
get into this because, again, previous histories growing up, like you said, this brings that out. I actually, something was brought up that I've blocked out for many years, honestly.
Oh wow, that's interesting. I need to hear more about that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, man, it was, and this is why I was also hesitant too. And like I said, this is kind of like church because, again, this brought this out, and it's very heavy. Um,
Yeah.
so I was raised, and there was one moment where I witnessed my grandma get knocked out cold
Oh
uh,
shit.
by a man. Yeah. I was staying at his place. She was dating him at the time. She had, like, I had not grandfathers, you know, like she was just in her 50s and still, even 40s, a younger grandmother and still, you know, transitioning, trying to find her way. I'm living with my mom at the time, visiting, parents are divorced, visiting my dad on the weekends. But that one night specifically, it was in a you know, low income area, not in the greatest house. My room was, it wasn't a door, it was just a blanket, and it's being pushed out by the cigarette smoke. I can remember the smell. I even remember what show I was watching. I was watching Uh-Oh on YTV. It's a kids game show.
It's funny the details you remember, right?
It's really weird, man. It was a wolf blanket. It was fleece, and I was sleeping on a mattress on the floor. And I mean, maybe I was 3 or 4. It's like it's so blank. The rest of the room is blank. I just remember hearing the yelling, peeking the blanket, and it was like a ringside knockout where you see it, and then the smack.
Fuck, you know.
Her face fell through the blanket onto the floor,
Oh,
face
fuck.
first, and I blacked out. I don't remember anything past that. But my mom, she's filled in the gaps, and God bless her, because she told me this a little while. She actually just told me this a little while ago when I brought it up, that I was picked up by Child Protective Services that night, that the police were there. But I'd have zero recollection of that. I do remember the knockout. I don't remember anything after that. I knew there was something that was going to be brought up when I was diving into this. Just like you said, because I read about, you know, what you wrote as well, and it's really heavy, and especially for people that have these issues as well. You know, it's not just brutality, it's not just fighting. There's a reason why we're drawn to this. There's a reason why we're drawn to violence, and just like the pure human experience. This is like really seeing how far the human soul is willing to go, how far the mind is willing to go. You know, is watching just watching a fight right before this. The guy was bloodied up, messed up, got up, and he finished the guy. And you know, it doesn't matter in what retrospect or what way, or you know, or if it's labeled fight porn. It doesn't matter what language you speak. If you see a man go the full route, you see a man go leave his full soul in there, you don't need to speak the same language. It brings something out in you, and I think that's inspiration. It brings out inspiration. Whether it's inspiration to clean your house, whether it's inspiration to get that new job, or fuck off with that relationship, whatever that is. You know, if you have that ability to translate that into something that helps you as well, especially this, because it's at the most true level, you're not holding anything back. That's what I get out of it 100%. And I think that's what the people that go there, that have their hands on the fence, they just want to feel that energy. Even having my hands pressed forward, like just knowing that you're there, I feel that. Like just talking about this, there's no bullshit about that. There's something raw.
For sure, for sure.
Feeling there.
I think also, like, you know, talking about knockout, like there's something about someone getting knocked out. You know, the moment of vulnerability in that person. It's sort of like it's always like a distressing image to see in a way. Like I had like you know, friends knocked out, and you just, you know, I just like there's so many factors going into that. And I think, you know, violence in general, obviously, you know, as you're talking about like violence growing up and all that, I think we all have our own relationship to violence, and some, yeah, I guess it all comes down to how you define it, or what it means to you, or you know, like you can be assaulted, or someone you love can be assaulted, and that violence means something, or you can agree like on equal terms to fight someone with similar experience, and that's like that's different, of course. But I think I when I grew up, I sort of like I had a lot of anger, and I think I internalized that anger of like I did not act it out, but more so like I was like the good son or the good kid. My sister was the one who acted it out. So I sort of like saw, you know, like everything displaying in front of me, and it really had like a strong effect on me. We talked about this before. I think, you know, like I lost my mom to suicide when I was 3 years old. I don't really have like a recollection or memory of her like whatsoever, but I think it fucks you up in a lot of ways. But I also like, you know, these stories that we have, they're not unique in any way. We have this image about life as being this complete experience, and we're checking off all the boxes, you know, mom, dad, house, you know, like dinners, stuff like that. But that's not, you know, that's not real life. That's like the perversion of society, and then we're all like afraid to talk about it, or like we're afraid to open up about this shit. So um i think I think the most beautiful thing you can wear is your vulnerabilities, like wearing your vulnerabilities on the outside. And what I learned about these guys fighting, you watch them on Instagram, and you watch this perverted image about the violence of like people getting, knocked the fuck out, and you see this blood all of like blood spatting and all that. But every person, down to the organizers, the fighters, they all have, you know parents, kids, siblings. They all have a story. They all have someone they want to provide for. They all have, I talked with a fighter the other day. He was talking very passionately about what he would do if he got a kid. And it was such a remarkable way of talking about how to get a kid, and the love expressed for that. Like, I would give that kid everything. And the point is that I think we all have this depth, but somehow we don't talk about it, or somehow like we have outlets that we it, the basically the black hole in our hearts creates this void, and so we don't look into that, but then we push it over, or we channel it to another outlet of violence or whatever. And I think approaching this whole thing from that perspective of like, now you and I are connected in a way. Like, I know more of your story, maybe some of mine, and just agreeing that, like basically acknowledging our humanity, or like the human experience of like, okay, so both of us are probably trying our best. None of us wants to like see the other one get hurt or anything. And just opening that door is exactly what I felt that King of the Streets did for me with these people. And yeah, I got really close to these people, and it's so much more. Social media gives one image to this, but I also think that there's a lot of like boxes that you need to look in order to like grasp the full situation, and that's where it becomes relevant. That's where people are gonna resonate with the message of the documentary.
It's definitely
So
more
yeah,
than just fighting, 100%. And I know that these guys knew that as they're putting this together. You know, for the for labeling it like, yeah, a guy getting knocked the fuck out. It's not the way you put
yeah,
it, right? That's not the way you put it. It's I wrote earlier again. It's how far are you willing to go?
mm,
How far is the human willing to go? And I was just in Ontario covering when we were talking on the phone the day previous. I was at the WBC sanctioned Muay Thai event. It was the first national amateur adult champions were crowned, because it's been illegal. Even professional Muay Thai,
mm,
WBC, has been illegal in Canada up until now. And
interesting.
there was 25 fights that night.
Who resonated with me very, very heavily, that he got finished in a brutal, brutal fashion. And he's a man who before the event, he's going like WBC gold, like, oh yeah, baby, like all this, and we're hyped up and we're talking and I'm getting to know him. Incredible man, really, really good martial artist. And the guy that he was fighting was just brutal. He was from South America. There's no holding back in this guy. The guy who I'm talking about, he was excellent, but this fellow from South America was something else. When you see him, you say, holy shit, like.
For the gentleman that got finished, in the second round there, he had a standing 8 count at the end of the round, and he was over the ropes like this with the coach holding a bucket next time. And again, it's just it shows, it's more than fighting. It really is. And there were so many people there that were that I know that were influenced by that, because it's very heavy to watch.
Yeah, especially when someone gets knocked out, but like wants to continue.
Mm-hmm.
That's like, that can be a horrifying moment.
The coach turned the towel for him. Yeah.
Yeah, and those are the fights, in King of the Streets. Those are, the worst fights aren't the quick knockouts. If there's like a quick knockout, I'm like, so yeah, let me also tell you this. There hasn't been one fight that I've shot, like where I was there, where I didn't feel really nervous beforehand. I was like, shit, because they're always fighting on concrete floors. Like, there's no rules, no rounds, and there's always some shit that could and will probably go wrong. But sorry, I lost my track.
Oh no, no, no.
But yeah, so yeah, basically the quickest fights are like, oh, oof, okay, yeah, he's
Yeah.
like he's up and running, he's walking out.
Knocked
He
out,
didn't
back
hit it.
up, done. Fight's done.
Yeah, he didn't hit the head on the concrete, stuff like that. Uh, but the worst fights I've seen, okay, so I've seen like a couple of really bad knockouts, but the worst fights I know is like the 20 minutes fights. There has only been one for what I know, but 17, 30 minutes, 10 minutes. We see that and the amount of violence to the head, and no one, like, people refuse to give up.
Yes.
That's fucking horrifying.
It's hard to watch. Me and my brother, when I was visiting him, we respectfully could not take our eyes off of it, but we had to take breaks in between. And I even had to remind him, like, dude, these guys are in there doing it. They endured that 25 minutes. We can endure the same of just watching it to appreciate what they did. And yeah, we watched one of those full ones, and it's insane. And you never know. The guy's finished the fight and goes off, and he's dead right after, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's the worry.
Trauma. So I'm, who knows? Especially because it's underground and illegal too. If they're going to a hospital right after, I know there's doctors on site, but to the extent of doing a brain scan and all that right after, it can, especially with those 20-minute ones, can be absolutely insane. So like literally all the respect to them, man, for doing that, because it's not a fight-born thing. It's not a brutality thing. It's literally how far will humanity go? How far will the human soul and mind go?
For sure. But that's also like, that's why, King of the Streets don't consider themselves to be a sport. Like, it's not a sport. A sport is like an organized thing where you can compete, and so it's similar to that, because you can sort of like, you can be undefeated in a certain amount of fights, but it's not sustainable in the way of a sport.
Yeah, 100%.
So the people that fight in King of the Streets, they're well aware of the risk. They have. I mean, I hope they are, because they could probably die, hitting their head on the concrete, or getting knocked out, or fighting for 15 minutes. So yeah, but it's definitely not a sport. But also, like, that's also what's interesting with the community of, like, so we have this community of extremists, or extreme, like, martial artists, like it's the extreme sport of martial arts, in a way. And it's more of a philosophical, existential thing. Like, why would you be willing to risk your life? I mean, even in Muay Thai you can die, or in MMA or whatever, like these slap contests, you can die in them as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can also argue that they're more organized and all that. But why would you step up with agreeing to fight a guy knowing that you could kill him or you could die?
Because they're not stuck in the mud.
Oh yeah, yeah. Have you seen that?
I did.
Oh, awesome.
I'm gonna be watching the one about addiction that the gentleman did there, and then Christspiracy I'm excited for as well. But I take a little time between. It's hard, especially for the ones that are really meaningful and heavy to you. You don't want to watch all four and okay, I got the material in. Like, you want to watch it. You want to sit on it. You want to think about it.
Yeah, for sure.
And yeah, oh yeah, no, I'll be watching those all, and I cannot wait to see this documentary. I cannot wait, and even for, like we spoke, and there's parts of this that I can take out if we need to not talk about certain things that can be.
No,
really
you're good.
For the sake of even the chance of even being able to attend one of these, I could not imagine that feeling of nervousness and being there. And just that environment, of everyone there, it seems very respectful and well put together. But again, things go wrong. You can tell sometimes there's some fights that break out in the back. So you never know there. And I contacted a few of the fighters, and I'll be contacting more because I love to chat with them. But I also don't know how they feel about speaking about it, releasing their face, because then that's literally just acknowledging and saying that, hey, yes, I did this, and there's footage of it. So
I think if they're doing it, they're proud of doing it, and that's also the viewpoint of basically the clash of worlds, if you want to call it that. But I think these fighters know exactly what they're doing, and I don't think they're afraid to, but get out there and talk about it. But also, I know for a fact that that's the thing about the community as well. They usually don't speak to the media at all.
Yes.
They don't speak to anyone. So being there is a privilege, and it's a trust that I earned over time.
100%.
So yeah, I'm very, I don't want to break that trust in any way,
Oh,
of
yeah.
course. So yeah, yeah.
So are you, well, I get, yeah, again, in that sense too, even that is touchy. I was just about to ask, like, do you know, you obviously don't know when you'd be going to the next one because they contact you, right? And that's kind of that thing.
Yeah, now we're in a different world, of course. I know a lot of things because I have to, since we have to plan out the documentary. So they have to keep me informed in order for this to work. Also, I live in LA. The Fight Club is in Sweden. So I have to stay on top with everything. It's also like, when you're doing a documentary about something, it's also like a different approach because you need to push your agenda more. You can't always be the fly on the wall, but you need to ask for interviews. You need to, be more proactive within the community. Also, like using their community. But Hype Crew has been like very helpful with. So this is also an interesting point that they have been extremely helpful in the making of this documentary. Extremely helpful because they want this to be heard and seen. Whatever they said, whatever the truth is, let it come out. Because I think they also, they have things that they want to say. They want to speak about certain things because I think this thing in general it's generally very, it's well understood what the violence is.
Yes.
But the philosophical existential values are greatly misunderstood.
Yes.
We have a view of violence, and I think people with similar experiences with yours, like with domestic violence and stuff like that, they frown on violence. But I also think that the agreement of like consensual violence, I don't know, like I think a lot of people just have that drive. So I think there's something in that needs to be dug into, and they know what it is. So they have all these stories. They know exactly what they're doing.
Just like
Yeah.
like for
Sorry?
just like we spoke on how that brought up my forgotten issue there too. So and in that sense too, they should be like thanked, honestly, in that sense as well, because that stuff that's buried doesn't come out easily. It doesn't come out without a cost too, but it also helps. It aids in maturity as well.
Yeah.
No matter how shitty it is, and no matter how dark it is, and I know even people that listen to this will be uncomfortable in that sense too. But why be uncomfortable when you're just listening to it? Besides, the person that actually went through it, listen to the experience and try and unravel it and unfold it, and understand it, as opposed to saying, "Oh, this is too dark. I don't want to listen to it." Then continue to blind your eyes, on purposely, and continue to live in that world of your dinners and expectations, because that's what life really is. We have everyone that lives with these expectations, and that's why everyone's so miserable and loves to be negative all the time. I'm sure there's someone that you've ran into recently that's someone got cut off or this happened, and they let that rule their day. This guy cut me off and I had to, etc., etc. Like in martial arts, at the end of the day too, it erases that. It totally erases that. It teaches you, have that poker face, keep your composure.
Yeah.
Only strike when necessary in every way, whether it be conversation, business, or actually hitting. Take the dodge when you need to. If you get hit, get the fuck back up. It's such a for people that don't have the eyes to be able to translate that. As soon as you do see that, it gives your life so much more. You just feel so much more active and like more of a go-getter to go and do those things, because you're gonna get knocked down, but fuck it, get back up, right? There's people that get knocked down and go back and win a world title, or they get back and they get the win in whatever spec it is. So
yeah, Yeah, I think that's a great point. But I'll add this. I'll say this about life. You know, life is very complex. I often think that, you know, other people are so good at life, but I'm so bad at life. I'm just like surviving, and other people are like thriving. They have like saved money, and they have families, and they have like dinners, and they have routines and shit like that.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people that didn't identify with that. But also, like, you know, life brings a lot of challenges that we sometimes don't understand. Like we get challenged, you know, like there is a problem or something comes up, but it's because of a problem that or some kind of, like, you know, life skill that you didn't have. So now you have this problem and you don't understand it, or you don't know how to fix it, and you can't really provide for the people around you. But pain is something that you understand. It's very easily understood. You know, love, pain, and hate. It's something that's like really easy to understand. Like the source of it is different, but the thing, like, if you are putting yourself through pain, whether you're like cutting yourself or fighting people in a gym or whatever that is, it brings comfort. So it brings comfort to, like, it in a way channels the pain of, like, you can actually face the pain now, or you can channel the frustration into pain, and you can relieve yourself in sort of like this cathartic emotion release. So that's like, you know, I did I fought for 10 years, like, in different full contact martial arts. And I had like I had like really good friends, and the common denominator was that we were all sort of like fucked up in a way, but then we found each other, and it was an incredible comfort for all of us. Like knowing that, you know, on Saturdays I had two friends. They used to like kick the shit out of each other, and then one day one friend knocked the other out, and then the next, you know, the next holiday, or what do you do, next weekend, he revenged and knocked the other guy out, and, you know.
Yeah.
But it was sort of like a fun thing, because when life gets complex, when it's so in your face and you have all these things that you don't understand, pain brings comfort. It's like ice bath or like endorphins, shit like that. So I think that's why also pain is such an attractive channel of, you know, like an outlet.
And you can yeah, especially when you are using it and channeling it, you find that flow state, even if it's, you know, pain during a run. You know, once your mind is in that, like, I'm unbreakable. You know, I was right before earlier today, I was speaking with Christine Faria. She's the bare knuckle flyweight champion. And you know, you don't feel it. You know, if you've done the visualization in any route, if you've gone through it, and even in that time of being hit, when you are feeling that pain, you get past that point, that initial discomfort point, find that flow state, and you use that, you're indestructible. You really are. And that, again, translates to life too. And what you said there as well, how the fighter uses that pain in outlets as well. That's their side of the translation, right? If they don't know why they're fighting, you know, maybe that's not there. But if they do know, you know, I am feeling pain and this does help me relieve it, that's their translators on in that side too. So it's very cool to see and hear the two sides of it.
For sure. I don't think the only thing that, I mean, it's so violence is so stigmatized, and it's simplified. Like a lot of things in life, things are simplified. We categorize things. We put stamps on things just to understand. We have our prejudice. Like we're all full of prejudice. I say this every time. I'm like a broken record. But I think, you know, your opinions and your life experiences and your, you know, political views or life views, whatever, like we walk around and carry them like you earn them, like out of hard work. But the truth is you didn't, and it was just like short moments when you were subjected to something that you had this, you know, you had to evaluate subjectively with the limited information that your brain had at that moment. But then it's turned to be like, we have 12 of them now. It's like a life experience that shaped you into something, and now you have strong beliefs. So
It's
and also, have you read Sam Harris' Free Will? or Sam Harris, you know, the moral landscape?
I haven't.
So
No.
okay, you should, because it's one book that argues that we don't have free will. Like it understands, you know, like the concept of free will. Like it's not like we're doing things, you know, because we don't have free will, but it's also like, you know, if you were born in Somalia and you were like, you know, born into Al Shabaab or whatever, you wouldn't have these views right now. You didn't earn what you're having right now. So
I spoke. I'm really glad that you brought that up. I made a pastor of a church quite uncomfortable when I brought this up, because after a mushroom trip, had this exact same thought, and I shit you not, I didn't read it or didn't read up on this at all. This was something that I was lying there listening to Fleetwood Mac on mushrooms. I thought of.
Wow,
and,
that sounds interesting.
Absolutely. And we don't have free will. If there's a God, we don't have a free will. So this was my take on it, and I'm excited to read this book now. So if he knows the present, past, and future, knows how many hairs I have on my head, knows that I'm going to go like this, and knows that I'm having this conversation, there is no free will. It's a sandbox free will, right? I have the ability to go like this. He knew I was going to do that, but it's not really, it's already kind of scripted, right? The code is already there. I have, like, it's like a video game, right? All those options are there. I can jump if I press A. We can speak if I choose to speak. I can say fuck you if I press start. All that random shit, right? That can be part of that. But besides that, it's already, he did not understand the point that I was making of, it's already written. It's already written. If that is the truth, then no matter what, it's already written. Yeah, I have the free will to go kill someone. Yeah, I have the free will to go marry and have a child. But those, you know, it's again, it's kind of like a video game too in that sense. So it was weird. And yeah, he said, well, why do you get to do that? He just kept going back to the why. It's like, because God allows you. And I still believe in God. I still believe in the concept of a creator and all that, because again, we could even go deeper into that, but that's a whole nother conversation. That'll be an hour and a half. Again, on a mushroom trip, closed my eyes and I was listening to Right Down the Line by Jerry Rafferty, right to the guitar solo, closed my eyes and I saw the Big Bang in my consciousness. Like I saw like just the explosion of these worlds and all of this stuff, and it continued. The guitar solo ended, I opened my eyes and my friend just brought me a cup of water, you know? So I was so, and he's like, how are you doing? And I just, I'm sitting there like, oh, I'm good, man, I'm good. So, and then again too, down that route, you don't go doing mushrooms every week. You've gotten that experience out of it. You respect it, just like the violence in the sport, and you take what you can out of it, you resonate with it, and you let it kind of give you those thoughts as well. And it's heavy. It kind of correlates to that as well. So
yeah, that's very interesting. I gotta try that. But also, like, I think it's also like we're so quick to judge others, right?
Yes.
And it's all because like how you were brought up, how your basically social surroundings, like upbringings, like what class were you, poor, were you rich, shit like that. So I hate when someone like we all have like a white rich friend, like a depot child who got everything for free, and that person has strong opinions about the world.
Yes.
And I would truthfully want to see that person get fucked by the world, because like then you learn, if you've been through hell, then you have some worth. You like, have you seen Split? The end of the film.
I need to watch it. It was kind of on in the background. I need to give it.
Okay. Yeah, you need to watch it again. Basically, okay. I'm not gonna spoil it for you.
I'll go and basically, I'll watch it tonight.
Yeah, going through pain also, it's like a for me it's like a validation stamp of like, okay, I feel like we can talk now. I feel like I mean, everybody has adversity, right? Everybody has their hardships in life, but I do believe like that being open about it and being able to assess situations and all that, having those experiences help as well. But also, so that basically the prejudice of King of the Streets, and how our personal experiences often make us judge. But this is also the thing about King in the Streets, is that you have all these extremists under one roof. And it's quite it's quite an open culture, because the topic of violence, I mean, the amount of violence is so brutal. It's like, that's like the main threat of that moment, you know what I mean? Like, that's like the thing. So there's no, I think that often, like, at these events, it's very like calm. Everyone is calm, like everyone is composed in a way, except for like the occasional wild card. But that's also, they talk a lot about prejudice and how they want to be understood, how they, created a platform for misfits throughout, like, in different societies. Like, a lot of people can identify or resonate with that community. So yeah, I just think it's a very interesting thing, how judgmental we are, but somehow they are the one that doesn't judge people.
And they're looked upon as the ones that are in the wrong in any respect at all. They're looked as almost under society in that sense, when they're actually even more so respectful and understanding of people's experiences than your average person waiting behind you in the grocery store. They're probably more patient in line at the grocery store than your average person.
That I mean, because it's very simple, because at those events you are held accountable. Like, if you do something, you better have a good reason for saying what you're saying. You will be held accountable for everything you do. But I think this is also a good time to talk about sort of the negatives of King of the Streets. Because throughout my years with King of the Streets, I've always feel like extremely torn. There was not one event I didn't want to go to. Like, I always didn't want to go.
Yeah.
The part of me wanted to go. There has never been one fight like that I saw where it wasn't like really nervous. I was always very nervous about the fights. And I think one of the things that we should ask ourselves is what is this amount of violence being, what amount is, I mean, what's the message of this violence? We're talking, we're talking toxic masculinity. We're talking for like 11-year-olds, 14-year-olds, seeing these fights and just seeing the top layer of it and thinking that, like, it's all about let's fight in the backyard. I actually have a list of things. When we did the research for this documentary, we also did the research of all the negatives. Like, what are the top things that people are going to interpret as bad? Because we know it's bad. We've seen it. We felt it. But, like, is it a refuge for misfits or a growing grounds for violent minorities? It attracts hooligans and overall, like, a violent culture. It has, the fight has the risk of death. I mean, one being the concrete. It also gives a platform to, like, extreme far left, far right fighters. We've seen a lot of, different political views in this thing that could probably be very, I think, this is my opinion. I think a lot of these views are very hurtful for society. And I think offering a platform for like an extreme political view could be hurtful, because you provide a platform for them to, grow their views, basically.
Someone with an extremist ideology with a hatred towards another nation, let's say they find a fighter of that nation, they want to kill someone in that sense, they now have the legal ground, they have the platform to do it and be praised. Well, not for maybe praised, but they have the platform to do it and be praised for their performance while it's happening until that happens, right? And even in UFC, even in boxing, there's a young fellow who just passed away from his boxing match. This was, I think this was earlier today or yesterday. So in every combat sport, and honestly every sport, there is that chance. But again, obviously, I'm kind of whitewashing that sense of this is the most sheer brutal fights that you will see on the planet that are being recorded. Yeah, it is. It's very touchy, and it's good that you said that of, the toxic masculinity, those groups that even the 12-year-old kid, young Taylor, me, going and saying, oh, King of the Streets, there was a part in all of our lives, I'm sure, where we went on that one website, of the dark web that we wanted to go see,
Oh yeah, for sure.
a beheading or whatever it was. There was terrorist things going on for a while. Even fucking LimeWire in 2007, I was downloading music and there was some Arabic writing in the music, and I clicked on it, and it was a chainsaw beheading, and I can see it clear as it was a double. The guy, his friend watched his buddy get his head cut off, and then he got his head cut off.
Yeah.
And I'm 12 years old and click on that. So and again, I see it clear as I can bring it up at any point and just see it clear as day. Especially when you see death on TV all the time, and then you see it depicted in real life. It is nowhere near close to what people think. And again, just that base layer of that brutality, but without understanding it. And so what you're doing too, and what the group is doing and the team is doing is really bringing, because you have to look at this with both sides in everything that you do, or else you're biased, right? And you don't want to be biased if you're doing what you're doing, if you're trying to tell the whole story, no matter what. Again, going back to what we said about people being uncomfortable listening to certain parts or watching certain parts. If you want the full story, you need to listen and be a part of that as well.
Yeah, I think you're bringing up a lot of good points. I think the first thing you're referring to are beef fights. We have like two opposite political views fighting. But okay, so it's also the question of how much is too much, and what happens if we don't stop this violence? Should they be able to continue? Some might argue, but it's in a controlled environment, and you might also argue that it's not, because it's everywhere on YouTube. It's like a massive YouTube channel. But I think this is like our responsibilities as people. I would hate myself if a 14-year-old saw this documentary and then get really pumped up and like got out starting to look for fights. That's not the point of it. The point of it is we need to have nuanced discussions and conversations about this shit, because I want, like, we talked about this so much within the team, Burning Boat, Taylor, Mads, and I, of like what do we want people to do when they watch the film. Like, our dream is, of course, that teachers will show this film in class, even though it's brutal nature. Not sure that will be possible, but like parents will see it and talk about their children about violence. But we also need to see that there is a drive to violence. There is a satisfaction in using violence. I talked to my coach the other day, and he said also, like, some of his best memories has been memories of violence. And it's not like we're talking about, we're talking about such a big area. Like an MMA fighter, like going up in a fight, like that's one thing for him. A King of the Streets fighter, like risking his life to fight on concrete with no rules, that could be equivalent for that person. That's like the same thing. But so the question we also need to ask ourselves is, what happens when this violence goes unchecked? So what happens when we don't, if we try to kill this, like in its I don't know the English expression, like kill it in its crib,
in its
like it's in its infancy. What happens? Like, is there gonna be does this give any comfort and relief to people? Is this a community where they can sort of like be themselves? Or is this a community where we can sort of pervert the image of violence, or like, let's just like put up the worst 10 fights? Of course, that's what draws people in, the amount of violence. Someone said, it's like a car crash, you can't stop watching. But we also need to acknowledge, I'll go as far as to say, like, we also need to acknowledge the good of what this does, because I know the good that violence has brought me in my life. I know the good friends I've had, like we beat the shit out of each other, and then all of a sudden we can like expose our vulnerabilities to each other. So it's also like, what happens when violence goes unchecked? What happens when the wrong crowd finds this topic? What happens when 11 years old watches these fights? But also, like, so it's a double-edged sword, right?
It is, and you do have to get cut on both sides of it too, 100%, to get the full story too. And even this conversation is helpful. Anyone that has this style of conversation, it is helpful, no matter if it makes someone uncomfortable. But you have to be able to step outside and literally step outside that box. Just like when you're fighting, you have to, you know, be able to, you know, stay composed and look at everything in all angles and in every situation too. So, you know, a lot of people, again, I think would just be even uncomfortable with the notion of us even talking about this, and even the positive aspect.
Definitely.
You know,
Yeah.
even myself, before I contacted you, I wrote here too, the moral dilemma of me even contacting you about this
Yeah.
conversation. But again, it's both sides of the sword, and there's positives out of it too.
Yeah, because in a way you provide a platform for King of the Streets, if we're gonna talk about this documentary. So I understand that, but I also understand, like, I mean, how fucking stupid are we to like label things as, you know, like you should do this, you shouldn't do that. But I mean, we're so quick to judge on things of like why these people are doing that, and I think like uh, yeah, it's like people are gonna be people. We're gonna pervert everything. If you find some, if you found some like kind of gold in the world, and it just like, or it's like a pill that grows like naturally, like the world is gonna prostitute that shit. We're gonna make so much money of it. It's gonna capitalize on it. We're not gonna be able to like. We're even gonna go to war for it. That's people. That's human nature.
It's
But learning how to like channel, you know, the inner frustrations, because we all have frustrations, right? But and I don't think we should tell others what the limit of that outlet should be, as long as the, you know, like it's two consensual, like it's two guys fighting consensually. But then also, again, what happens when this violence goes unchecked? What's the moral dilemma of that?
and it goes back to, of, you know, people standing on their beliefs and their rights so proudly, when even, get this as well, so, you know, let's say those beliefs and morals are learned from their parents. Well, what if their parents are garbage, right? Then
Yeah.
that just continues and continues. You learn that from someone that honestly doesn't even know. When, as you grow up, you notice this so much more often. You know, people that you know, or you look up to, or people beside you that are adults and have a say in the world or in public, or how things go, are
Yeah.
ones that are honking their horns and screaming and going, "What the fuck," behind closed
Yeah.
doors, you know, and they don't
Yeah.
have that composure.
No, exactly. But if you, I promise you, if like, so there's going to be people that fight, that's going to get worse in traffic because of that, because they're going to feel like they own the world. But I heard someone say, like, if you walk around like you're not going to get your ass kicked, like you clearly don't know how it feels to get your ass kicked. And it's going to happen, like, if you walk around too much, you know, long enough for it to happen, and like act out and be tough and all that. And I think for me, like, you know, this is more of a like, so this is acknowledged as like martial arts knowledge of, like, you know, when you're young, you're lost, you have all these pain or frustrations, and then it goes inwards, and then you start to act out. But then you start doing martial arts, you get routine, you have your values checked, and you like like you're getting better at compartmentalizing and channeling these frustration, and all of a sudden you're like the, you know, you're like a like Marcus Aurelius in traffic. You don't like get frustrated with anything, because how can people have time to get frustrated with that? If you know, like, if you know how it feels to have someone like try to kill you in a ring, like you're not gonna worry about, you know, fucking traffic, or you might do that. So that's also like acknowledging that we can fall on both sides, and that's why I think we should just like, you know, the problem isn't only King of the Streets here. The problem is, I'm not gonna say society, but the problem is people and society. So, you know, like on social media, everybody's a fucking actor. On YouTube, you know, those people you see, like, what's up? You know, those aren't like the actual people that you're watching. They're putting on a show for you, so you can identify with the highlights of their lives. Even the friends, your friends going to this vacation, they like, I promise you, they put some time into those pictures. Um,
100%.
so it reminds me of like Chuck Palahniuk's Fight Club, of how perverted that part of society is as well. And what I like about King of the Streets and what I love about Hype Crew is that it's the real shit. It, you know, the agenda. It's nothing else than that, and you could call it whatever you want. Like I am definitely torn with these, like between the two sides. but I know that it's like it's a pure emotion, and it gives me something. It gives me value to have that.
If it
So
makes you think that deep, 100%, and yeah, for the purity of it too. You know, when something is that pure, even though it's hard, you have to dig into it. Society is how
yeah,
they really are, you know, and how Fight Club is too in that sense too. You know, where you even how you said you're not going to say it's society, like it is. It you know, it really is, because we're so washed. We're so, you know, it's crazy, man. Have you seen the film with let's see what the fuck now, Jim Carrey, and the world is fake around him?
oh
The
yeah,
Truman Show.
Truman Show. Yeah,
I
love
had
that.
I had that feeling watching a commercial the other day for the first time in my
Yeah.
life. I've been waiting for that. And
Yeah.
just watching the advertisement of the perfect dinner and the perfect life and the soap and all, whatever the fuck it was. And you know, then you think about all the bullshit that's going on, and there is enough, you know, there really is enough if we put the time into it. If society put the time into it to be able to help, we could go on into that too. But you know, the downtrodden, and in truly help the people that have gone through violence or gone through whatever shitty things there is. But we're so focused on updating, on selling, on advertising, on getting the new, and on becoming better, like on social media, etc. You know,
Yeah.
and how you said about the "what's up, guys?" Like, I've prided my people ask me, they're like, "What's like?" You don't even put your name on your thing. Like, it's not about me. I don't give a fuck. You know, this isn't a "what's up?" Hey, it's Taylor. Like, it's not about that. It's we're talking about the people that are going through this, and that's what Hype Crew does too. They just put it out. It's this guy versus this guy. Here's the fight. They don't go, "Welcome to King of the Street 7."
No,
It's
no.
really,
And honestly,
here
they don't
it
give a
is.
fuck about what you think.
Exactly, right? It's just here is not the product. Here is the knowledge or the information,
Yeah.
experience too, and that's I really love that too, because man, people, even when I was watching UFC with my friends, they would say, "Oh, dude, you should start a YouTube channel or a podcast or whatever," and I was like, I'm so against that shit. Like, even doing this was kind of a leap because you know, but I don't have to do that. Hey guys, it's fucking whatever. No one cares. They're watching it to know about the info that we're talking about. You know, so even in that sense, like, that was the first personal story I've really like told, honestly, because again, no one really gives a fuck, right? No one gives a fuck. You could tell someone that your dog died, your mom died, and you're sick, and you're gonna die tomorrow. And you know what they're gonna do? They're gonna go home and be like, "Oh yeah, so Victor's gonna die tomorrow, and he had a shitty week," and go home, go to bed, wake up the next day. And you know what they'll do? No, to go even further. Hey, how you doing? Man, Victor's gonna die. He had such a bad week, and they'll make it about them, you know? And then for weeks. And then for weeks they'll go on about that until they find something else to cling on to that gives them attention from someone.
Yeah.
It's fucked up, man.
But
It's fucked up.
yeah, it is. But it's also product of society. But also, I don't want to blame society, because like I truthfully don't think that anyone knows how to, like, you know, people are so different, and being able to sort of like, how do you control like 3 million people? It's through conformity that you actually gain some structure. You get some kind of like, you get some like an overview of the people. Or that's like to the depth of my knowledge, that's how they do it. Or you have some kind of narrative, or even better, you have like you know, religion, or like a strong political view. But I always talk about like, what if we had this like T-Rex walking around eating people? Like, so the best you could hope for was like that you could live for years. You could see your daughter, or your grandson, or you know, stuff like that. I just want to live long enough to experience this. If we had that kind of threat, we would have purpose, because we would have these times in life where we view life with respect. But now we don't have purpose, because we're living in countries that we have great economy, we have all these things, so there's no threat of anything, and the anxiety grows with that, and we get lost, and we feel frustrated, and we don't, when we're not heard, we get even more frustrated. And that we found an outlet for it, and it could be good or it could be bad. So basically what I'm saying is that, you know, if we lack purpose, then I think that King of the Streets gives it's something, at least it's something real.
It's just like the end of the preview there of, you know, you could get hit by a car tomorrow. We don't live.
Yeah.
Nobody, you know, people like to post on Facebook enjoy every moment, enjoy every day, live,
Mm.
laugh, love, bullshit.
But that's not how life works.
Right.
You need to suffer, and when you suffered, you need to come out on the other end with this reward that's either character or something that could improve your life.
Or something that absolutely crushes you if you don't use that properly, right? And that literally gives you a metaphorical Tyrannosaurus Rex to walk around with in your life too. Because really, even sitting there, even this, what if this was my last moment? Well, fuck yeah, that's incredible, honestly. And to be able to, there's a movie, the Disney movie Soul. Honestly, if you haven't seen it, man,
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, you have seen it?
No, I haven't. I gotta see it,
dude. 100. This will resonate with you too. You'd really appreciate what they did, because I keep there's a physical thing in the movie that you can go outside and pick up right now and put it in your wallet. But I have that in my wallet right now to remind me every fucking day to truly not just I appreciate it. No, to fucking truly appreciate every day. I had a little cousin that just passed away. He's 14 years old.
Sorry to hear that.
Again, it's a what are you gonna do thing, right? Everyone has these issues and these things, and I'm glad I got to know him. But again, when he's 14 and I'm double his age, I've had 14 more years of him on Earth. So I better make sure that I'm living properly, right? You owe it to those people. You owe it to those people that haven't been able to live out their dreams and their lives and all that stuff to
so true.
Go and do that, man. Because if you don't, you're a disgrace to your own life and them.
Exactly.
Honestly, you sit there and complain.
Exactly. And I think a lot of people would complain that that's sort of like a guilt trip, but I always have that in mind when I run between Venice and Santa Monica, and you have all these homeless people. And obviously I had privilege growing up, a white person in Sweden, and then I was a white person moving into the US. I had some savings, I had opportunity, stuff like that growing up. Maybe not as good as my friends, but still I was better off than a lot of these people. So what gives me the right to where I am today? Or what I always have that in mind, like what like how do I utilize my privilege to do something good with it, to make sure that whoever was put in my place wouldn't do better. Like, do you know what I mean? Like using that, whatever leverage you have in life, like using that to do good. Like, we're not giving back because this is an egotistical journey. This is something I'm very interested in. So I'm going to do that, but at least making good use of that time, and hopefully someone will benefit from that. But I love that perspective of like, you had 14 more years of life. So what are you doing with those 14 years? And what would he do with those 14 years? Sorry if I'm being insensitive. No, but I truly believe, I read a lot about Stoicism, and I truly believe in the art of suffering. I truly believe that you must suffer. Like, if you don't know what to do in life, I hope you suffer. I hope you suffer to the point where you actually not enjoy the suffering, but you find purpose in it. And then when you found purpose, you can be satisfied with knowing that you did something out of nothing. If you have nothing, well, at least you have the suffering.
That's one of the best things to do, and I think that's why I've been able to go through with this too. Not to make this about me at all, and I delay even talking about myself too. Again, for the suffering part, back injuries, one of the most painful fucking things you can do. I ballooned up to 300 pounds. I was fucked up royally, not only once but twice. It took me 5 years to fully recover. Weight fluctuations, and obviously all the mental traumas that come with that. Literally wanted to commit suicide from the pain, the daily pain. I told my chiropractor, I want to kill myself because I cannot get rid of this pain. To this day, I still cannot sleep properly, but I manage. I smoke a ton of weed. I watch fights. I do this. I have a purpose. I feel fucking good. But that pain, again, like you said, you almost can't talk to someone. You almost can't even look them in the eye. That's why you got to get to know people, right? You talk to someone, and I've always wondered if there's truly anyone, because we've all gone through pain, whether it's loss or physical pain or whatever, but I'm always wondered too if anyone's like got the golden ticket in life, or they actually never even like spoke with someone and like even had that mental capacity to understand pain, where they're born, they had a great family, great parents, parents didn't fuck up in any sense, great job, grew up, went to school, the whole 9 yards. That like dream life in a sense. And I'm astounded to ever see or hear if anyone's had that. I'm sure that's not a thing, but it's kind of what everyone pretends they have, honestly, until you start talking to them, in these kinds of settings, right? Because then when that shit comes out, it's just, oh yeah, I 9 to 5 dinners, etc., etc. So
I'll tell you something it gave me the fucking goosebumps the first time I read about it. It's a study, like I apologize in advance for any factual errors, but there's a study called Universe 25. Do you know what that is?
No.
So Universe 25, I'll just read out loud so I don't like miss. So basically, it was like 1968 to 1970. There was conducted a behavioral study of captive mice within a 9 square foot enclosure at a rural facility in Poolsville, Maryland, and with several. It was like a colony of mice, right? And they were provided with every need, like everything they wanted, they got the good food, like all these things. And do you think they lived a happy dream life?
I think I heard about this study. No, they ended up fighting, right?
Yeah, I mean they basically slaughtered each other. So they were as many as 2,200 mice when they peaked, and basically it's just like it ended up being they slaughtering each other, females abandoning their young, like it just turned into a shit show. The strong mice defended the food and all that. But still, why would they do that? Because they had every need satisfied. So they weren't like they didn't have to do that, but they did. And I think that's it makes sense that we as humans, we are not like, there's no such thing as a dream life. If you have the world and you get something taken away from you, like your world crashes. If you have nothing, and you were granted something, like that will mean the world to you. And I think, like, as people, we aren't programmed to, we need to find something that really makes us suffer, but in a good way. So that's why, like, I found fighting, that was my savior. Like, I stopped like hurting myself, but I more like, I started like enjoy life. I had like a gained confidence. I could carry myself in the world. And I think a lot of these fighters found the same thing. Like, after this conversation with these fighters, they have an understanding of the grants of suffering, or what you get from it, or the retreat that pain gives you, the satisfaction of pain, and I'll label it as the understandable pain, the pain you can understand in the world, the pain that makes sense. That's like fighting pain.
And people, until they have it, it's something that they kind of pretend that they have too, and they kind of flaunt that as well, talking about, oh, I was in a fight in high school, or this hockey fight, or et cetera, and they love to really go on about that. And it's more so the people that don't have that understanding that bring that up a lot of the time. So going into the actual fighters themselves, I saw a connection through this that could link them to a professional career and to literal like superstardom with some of these fellows, and internal glory as well to go professional. Have any of them ever contacted anyone or gone through with heading into the bare knuckle FC?
I'm not aware of like such a situation. I just know that a lot of fighters fighting in King of the Streets got like, they came from like martial arts organizations, and they got shit from that. So they were either banned, they were either shut out, like ostracized from the associations and stuff like that. So, but I'm not aware of any like,
because I could see David Feldman absolutely eating up, underground street fighter coming into BKFC, putting on a show and becoming a champion and just fucking running shit over there, But then again, that's only if that individual is willing to hold back certain aspects of violence, right? Because then there's rules when it comes to that, right? And becoming in that sense. So, but I going over all of this, I instantly thought, could you imagine, the French Viking, going legally after a bloody battle in that ring, right? Because then that also kind of gives insight to the guys that don't have an outlet to professionalism or organizations, because they've been banned in other senses. I know it does people do have troubled pasts. Julian Lane banned from UFC for life for his Ultimate Fighter stuff, or UFC stuff. Not to put a name, I'll take it off after, but you know, bare knuckle. David gave him a chance in bare knuckle. He became a star, and now he's doing stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
power slap, and you know, not that I think power slap is it's totally something else in that. I think that's the face of just instant violence and just loving a knockout in that sense. So I kind of get that, but I also haven't looked on the positive sides of it too. But I haven't given it a chance because it's literally just smacking it down.
Yeah.
So
but that's also the thing. Like, it's a thing. Like, I think it's like, I would say it's fucking stupid, but it's not like just me saying that it does not make it stupid. It just like does not make it my preference. It's not my preferred you know, form of violence. But I know, like, from like how fucked up King of the Streets are, I can understand why people would love power slap.
right, just see that instant knockout. So yeah, 100%. Besides that, you know, I know you're a busy man, so I don't want to take up too much more of your time here. Is there anything else that you wanted to touch on about the documentary? Because I love the fact that you've created. Because when I interview some people, my friends say, "Well, what are you going to talk about?" You know, well, what are you talking about? You know, you've created a story here. You've created an arc. You've created a hero, a villain, the vehicle, and yourself as well being a part of it. And it's really, and you know, when people hear that as well, you know, it's not just going to be your run of the mill. Here's fights. Here's the guy. Here you go. Like, there's a story behind this too, and you know, the plateau of you know, there's obviously there's going to be a serious incident at one of these fights. You know, it's exciting to go about that, and it's,
and I mean, a lot of it is already shot, so, which is good. But yeah, I would love to elaborate on some things. I know there's like possibly a lot of people that hasn't seen King of the Streets or don't know what it is. But basically, King of the Streets is it's known as the world's most notorious fight club. It has its roots in Sweden. I've been following them for 3 years, as have other people. So I'm not the only one. We're working together on this to make a documentary about this phenomenon. But it's also interesting that you're saying, you know, I have a story, but like the thing, when you find something like this as extreme, like jumping off cliffs, whatever, you have to ask yourself, like, why the fuck are we doing this? Why does this provide purpose? Or otherwise we would just be sadists, right? Or so there has to be a story. We have to like find something. So we worked a lot on this documentary, and we're working in right now. We're looking for private investors to invest the first part before we take it to distribution deals. But our hope is that we will see the live premiere of the documentary in 2024. I think it's realistic to say anything from Mars and moving forward. Yeah, go ahead.
No. That's I was just surprised and excited.
That's yeah.
Yeah.
And listen to this. So I like, we really want to have like a cinematic premiere. We really want to. So basically, this film is one for the community. This film is for, you know, all the people who felt like misfits and somehow identified with even a fraction of this culture, part of it, or you know, like wanted to, who have an outlet or have frustrations and all that. And we really want to like this film to be owned by the community as much as possible. We called it like a voice of the voiceless, because these people, they don't speak to the media. They don't have a chance to have their say, but still the media has a lot to say about them. And I'm talking the media is not one entity, but there has been a lot of opinion about that. So we're really excited to see this film come together. We had so much help from a lot of people, you know, working with a few different production companies, with the main one being the producer of Burning Boat. It's co-directed by Mads Beyer and produced by Taylor. He's also called Taylor. So, but yeah, I mean, any questions people have about the film, anything people want to know, they can, you know, reach out.
You know, I noticed that Muay Thai kind of rules on the stand-up when you're there. Muay Thai rules until it's going to the ground. But if you're striking and your boxing is good, with that Muay Thai, because the Muay Thai striking, the Thai boxing background is even stronger and harder than your regular boxing, regular run of the mill.
Yeah, I think we're gonna see. We've already seen an evolution of fighting in, as you've seen in like the UFC. Like at first it was like the like the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Then you have the wrestlers and all that. And I think people are getting a lot more creative with King of the Streets as well. So I think we're gonna see an evolution of how to fight in that category as well, which is gonna be very, very interesting to see, and also very fucking scary.
Yeah, because it's just, more trained killers coming through. And it's someone that just wants to bring their light to the world, especially when it's helping. I'll do whatever I can too in that sense. So
Yeah, I appreciate that. That would be of huge help. Thank you so much for doing this, putting me on. I know it's been an interesting internal dialogue for you, or monologue to choose whether to do this or not.
this was one of the best conversations I've had with another human, whether face to face or over a screen, honestly, in my life, Victor. So I think
Truly appreciate that.
Seriously,
Truly appreciate that.
Your work, I want to make sure too that your work is going to get noticed too, and I would be honored if I could come join you guys at that premiere when that happens.
Yeah, definitely. It's happening. Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
But we'll keep in touch. Thank you so much.
All right, my man.
All right,
I'll let you go, bro. Take care, dude. We'll talk.
Thank you so much. Talk soon.
Thank you, sir. Cheers.
Bye.